Hi, Kate.
Hi,
Uh,
Lucy.
I'm Lucy Jones. I'm a seismologist. I have my own center at this point, the Dr. Lucy Jones Center for Science and Society. I'm with Kate Scharer, who's a geologist, not a seismologist.
No, not at all. I'm a geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey here in Pasadena, California.
Yeah, we're sitting here at Caltech in the Gutenberg Library to talk today about the news report that's been out that the end of the world is coming, or in other words, that the San Andreas is about to produce an earthquake. And I was thinking back how often I've had to respond to news inquiries about a new paper that tells us the world is ending or the San Andreas is moving. And I can't even count how often I've done this in the last 40 years. But I brought Kate in because she's actually an author of this study, which isn't telling us the end of the world is coming, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The paper uses the geologic data that we've collected over the past decades about when ruptures have damaged the terrain along the San Andreas and San Jacinto Fault, and then models that to understand the stress as it evolves through time.
Right. Because we've known, and I've been saying for decades, you've been saying for decades, that the San Andreas has to have a certain number of earthquakes. Actually, your early study showing about an average time between earthquakes of about 100 years at
Yep,
Fraser Park, right? And that's true of most of the fault. And we know it's been 300 years, over 300 years on
down in the
the
Salton Sea.
in the Salton Sea, but it's been what, 170 years
Yep.
now here up on the Mojave segment. So we've been waiting for this earthquake to happen, and I've spent my whole career in California waiting for this earthquake to happen, and we're still waiting. And we know that we're late in the cycle,
Yep.
or we know that the cycle has been very long, much
Yeah.
longer than average. We don't know it's late in the cycle. Presumably, it could go another 100 years,
Yes.
right?
The longest it's gone, for example, in the Mojave is more like 225, if I remember right. So it's longer than the current interval, but those are the rarer cases.
Right. And we're clearly in one of the rarer cases because it's already been
Yeah,
really long for the southernmost fault. Um, this paper doesn't change that picture. It just gave us a better quantification.
that's right. It's the purpose was to take the geologic data and then use geodetic modeling combined with just elastic modeling of how this crust accumulates stress and then releases it during earthquakes and come up with a estimate to sort of show the spatial patterns and then the temporal patterns of where we are now is really ended in what the press has taken off with.
Right. The press has really taken off with the fact that the numbers that we've got now, the absolute numbers, which are all a model of a model, let's keep it in context, are higher than would have been true at any previous time in the last 1,000 years.
Just a little higher though.
Right? And we don't know that it is that stress that determines when an earthquake can happen.
Right.
In fact, one of the most common models, or common models, to me, what I think is the best model, but uh, a likely way to say when earthquakes are going to happen is not what the stress is over the whole fault, but rather when you happen to hit a high stress in a little corner and then you cascade into failure.
Yeah.
Right? Because actually, even though these stresses are higher than before, they're still way, way smaller than what we see in the laboratory to break rock.
Yes. And the reverse side of you can think, here in Southern California, we had the Imperial Fault go off in 1940 and 1979. So sometimes you do get very short intervals. And so maybe those are cases where you have, yeah, there's just a part that's still a little bit stressed. So this assumes in this paper that you have complete stress drop in
Right.
each of these, and then you just accumulate more stress based on the amount of time between events. So there's also that side of,
Right. But if
do you
that
really release it all?
well, even if that's true, we're having earthquakes at such low stresses that you couldn't possibly get rocks to move in the laboratory when you put
Right.
that stress on it.
Hmm.
So there's our fundamental incongruity. We're still working on it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is this is a really interesting picture showing us what the earthquakes are doing, but it's not telling us the earthquakes tomorrow. And we wanted to try and share one thing as we did this to see how these are moving along. Okay. So this is a movie showing how these stress model, right? These are all calculations from a model, how the stress builds up along the fault and then gets released when an earthquake happens and how the different faults are interacting with each other. So you can see there have been plenty of times with high stress, times with low stress, times we've had a big earthquake like 1857 that had high stress to the north and low stress to the south, and it still went all the way through down to Cajon Pass. And right now, as we get to the end of the picture, we're seeing as high stress as we've seen in previous times, but it's still it's not unprecedented. And as we said, this isn't necessarily what determines the time of the earthquake. I think some of us think it might make it more likely to have a bigger earthquake when you have some more stress. There's sort of more energy to keep the whole thing going.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, and I mean, whether it's uh, two earthquakes, one in the south and one in the north, it's still a big time, that
right.
would come out of that, right? Whether it's one or a couple earthquakes that shed the stress.
Yeah, that's right. There, every earthquake makes another earthquake more likely. So we could have an earthquake in the south that then triggers the one in the middle and triggers one to the north, and it could trigger one up in San Francisco. But all things are possible in the earthquake world. Right. So this is our first attempt to try and share a little bit of knowledge rather
Yeah.
than doing it all on news reports.
Thanks. This was fun.
Thank you.